Let's go. Good morning. Happy Wednesday to everybody and belated Merry Christmas. Welcome to Business Mastery Live Webinar Wednesdays. Let's go ahead and get started, guys. I'm going to get started with a quick disclaimer and welcome once again. The following is for educational purposes only. It is not to be considered financial, accounting, or legal advice. Please consult your tax, accounting, and/or legal professional for specific advice. And I really want to go over the pillars really quickly with you, like what it is that we stand on. What are the principles that guide success around what we do, and in order to really achieve the things that we set out to achieve. I know it's the end of the year. It's coming up on 2024. Hope you're excited about that. By the way, 2024 is coming up, and what's going to be the difference maker this year for you and I? It really is going to be the ability for you and I to, one, create what it is that we say that we want in life, period. Whether it's in this business or in any other area in life, we want to be able to create that clearly for ourselves. What is it that we're setting out to accomplish in 2024? I'm not talking about a New Year's resolution. I'm talking about creating a specific intention, something that we're going to give ourselves this year. And there's going to be about being consistent and reliable for these things, but how we're going to be able to do that? Well, it's always going to be a principle-based approach to it. What are going to be the fundamentals that we stick to in order to accomplish what it is that we want to accomplish out here in the next year? So I'm going to give you these principles, guys. You stick by these things and you will win for sure. I'm 100% inside of this. So number one, we call this intentionality, which is mindset mastery. Number two, financial literacy, which is also financial mastery. Number three, structures, which is system mastery. And last but not least, number four is actions, execution mastery. These are the fundamentals, guys. So if you think about it, and mindset mastery means that I'm not getting distracted by the things that aren't in alignment with what I say I'm up to in life. That means internally, I'm not going to give my attention to things that are going to bring my vibration down for life. I'm actually going to place my attention on the things that are going to move life forward for me in this area. And I want to be a master at doing that, bringing myself back to what it is that I'm here for over and over and over again, so that I can stay clear to purpose this year in 2024. So financial mastery, the next one, is basically understanding that number story inside of our business. If you're in this conversation with me, then you're an entrepreneur, okay? You're somebody who's actually looking to level up in that entrepreneurship journey. And in order to do that, we want to understand the language of business, which is that number story, financial literacy. Okay. So we want to have that in place, understand what the numbers are telling us so that we have a direction and focus in life. Structures, the third one, structure system mastery. We want to understand, okay, well, if I'm building out this aspect of my business, how can I do it in a way where I'm not reinventing the wheel? I want to make sure that I build my actions on top of another. Well, how does that happen? Well, when I do something, I create a structure, I create a system, and then that structure, that system gets honored every single time, okay? That creates what we call leverage in life, which allows us to do a lot more with less effort, okay? So create the structures, be a master at creating the systems and structures inside of your business. Now, actions and execution mastery speaks for itself. Nothing really happens out here unless you and I take actions to move those areas of our life forward. When you're here, it means, well, what is it that I'm looking to do in terms of actions to move my business forward? All right. So now we want to have these four pillars that we know now fundamentally. We want to have these pillars be a way of life for us. Well, where is it that I'm actually putting the pieces together inside of these pillars? Okay. Now, if you don't have progress, if you're not moving forward, if you don't have the traction that you want in your business, then most likely it's going to be in one of these areas. You know, I emphasize these pillars every single time we get on this call because it's that important. We want to come back to these fundamentals and we want to align ourselves with being masters in these areas. Now, if you master these areas specifically, all four of these, you have no option. It's inevitable to success that you have in your business. If you want to level up, no matter where you are, okay? If you're at a ceiling, you feel as though you're stuck somewhere, well, most likely it's going to be one of these areas. We can take a look. Is it going to be in intentionality? And we have something that we're actually working on. There's an objective here. There's milestones to be accomplished. What are we doing here? Where's my attention focused? Am I focused on what's not working, or am I first focused on, well, how to get to what is working inside of the business, right? If it's in terms of, well, I don't really understand like what we're doing profitability wise. I don't really understand how to read financial statements. I don't know what that number story is telling me. Then we want to get good or create partnerships and with people that actually are good at this, so that we have this as a part of business. And then if you don't have the structures in place, you figure that things are just broken inside of your business, well, you're going to lose if you think that way. But you want to make sure that you bridge the gaps with these structures and systems. Okay. And of course, go out here every day and execute. All right, guys. So I'm actually pivoting because I want to get back to the roots, man. If you're on this call, you have a trucking company, guess what? We're going to talk about you today. All right. I have a specific love for trucking in myself because, I've been down that road. I'm probably the only accountant you're going to see who has an active CDL, right? I'm one of the few. I don't know if I know anybody else who's an accountant that does this as a profession who has an active CDL. Okay. That's me. I've been a driver for a major fleet. I've actually been a trainer. I've been an owner operator. I've owned a fleet, and trucking is one of those things where it's like one of my passions to be able to go in here, given that I do this inside of what we do now in terms of being the professional resource for entrepreneurs to help them understand and navigate their business, and by creating that level of organization, compliance, and financial accountability. Being that I'm doing that, I would love to do that for my people. I love doing that for my people inside the trucking industry. So we're going to gear that this conversation toward you today. Okay, because we want to start seeing the trends inside of where we are in the process, this and the end of this year, rather 2023, so we can actually make some decisions. Like where are you going to go? Where are you going to move inside of 2024? What's going to be the thing for you to drive your company, your fleet, if you're a motor carrier, your fleet forward, right? The thing that I really don't understand is why we get up and spend so much energy, time, and attention. For a lot of people, I see this, and it's like the same thing year after year after year inside of the business. It's almost like a stuck point where we're dealing with the same old issues and problems, and it doesn't have to be that way. There's a way that we can actually create beyond those same issues by just declaring a gap. Okay, this is where I want to go, and this is where I am. So how do I actually bridge this gap? Okay, so I want that for you this year. If you're in the trucking industry, if you're a motor carrier, you're dealing with a fleet of trucks, and you've been dealing with a lot of headaches, and you don't know how to move forward with that business in a way that makes sense. You've been trying things, and you've been dealing with some issues and some headaches with that, and you want to move forward with velocity, like a level of speed, and have this business really mastered. Well, this conversation is for you. Okay, so let's talk about a few things. I'm going to be doing this type of talk for most of 2024. We're going to be talking about trucking industry specifically. Okay, so because we're going to talk about the things that you deal with, and that life doesn't have to be a mystery inside of operations and choices that you make. Okay, so let's take a look. All right, so what am I looking at here? I'm looking at fuel trends right now. Okay, now you may or may not be pivoting inside of where you are with the type of equipment that you're going to run in terms of clean energy. Like, what is that really? I'm just going to bring this out, guys. Get some focus on this real quick. Boom. All right. So you may be not even thinking about, depending on where you are, like where this economy is headed in terms of clean energy. Okay. But right now, over the next, 5 years or so, specifically, we're going to be dealing with this issue here, fuel costs. And then we're going to be dealing with freight rates in relationship to that. Okay. Now, when I'm coming here because a lot of us and a lot of you guys in the industry don't really plan out for your profitability. What do I mean by that? Planning out for profitability means that I'm actually seeing like everything. I have clear eyes. So what I've seen a lot of is that people in the trucking industry, they don't really have eyes on what's happening inside of the business. And this comes back to that one pillar about financial literacy. So I want to bring all the numbers together to understand what's happening. I want to be able to see this. I want to read the number story. Okay. So if I'm reading the number story, it means that, well, one, I have an intention to create profit every single decision that I make inside a business. I want to have that favor me in business. And I want to know without a shadow of a doubt that that decision I'm making is going to do that. It's going to go in my favor. Sometimes this eludes us, and really a lot of the times this eludes a lot of business owners in the trucking industry because we're not looking at these metrics. Okay. We think that we're just, subjected to the whims of the economy when we actually have a response ability. We can respond to it in a way that works for us. If we know what we're looking at, we can just choose. Okay. Now, with this being said, this is the trend of fuel over the last week or so, last few weeks, the month of December, really. All right. So, fuel was up, then it bounced down to a low, and now it's bouncing back up. I remember I did a talk for the MTPA and my Minority Professional Truckers Association. We were talking about this more than a year ago, almost 2 years ago now, when fuel was skyrocketing above $4. And let's actually look at that. So we looked at this trend, and this was really what we were looking at that time. We looked at this breakthrough above $4 per gallon, and it hadn't done that in a while, like not really since 2008. And we had that, the economic crash in 2008. But, it spiked down below that mark, and it had trouble for like more than a decade of getting back above this mark. But then here we go. Boom, right here. Fuel prices went up. And, I was saying at the time that, this most likely would be another area that it would come back down to, and it would be like a low level for fuel moving forward. And you can expect fuel to be at least at this mark or above from now on. And this is kind of what happened when we were having that conversation is boom, it just did that. Right around this level is when it bounced up, and it has resistance, and it's here again, and it's bouncing up again. Okay. So we don't really know without a shadow of a doubt, like what fuel prices are going to do. Okay. There's an indication here of a trend, a pattern that I see that indicates that we're at a low for fuel, and fuel is most likely going to end up going back up. Most likely, that's high probability for me when I see this. Okay. Now, inside of this, well, how does this impact me as a trucking company? If you own a trucking company, and what are you thinking? Like, what are your choices that are available when you're looking at this now? Okay. Now, if you don't have the full visibility on the impacts of this, let's bring this up just to see some impacts of fuel right now. Okay. So right now, this is 12.25. And these are the fuel rates that we were just looking at. Okay. This is a national, and we have it by region as well. Okay. And we can tell, like, look, man, if you're in the trucking industry, and you're running like Freightliners, and you're running Volvos, and you're running Peterbilts, and these diesel powered vehicles, well, somewhere around here is what you're doing as far as like miles per gallon. Somewhere around there. Now, it could be higher, could be lower, right? But somewhere around $6 per gallon, 6 miles per gallon rather, is what you're going to get. Now, if I take that number, which is kind of in the like realistic area, well, we can see the impacts of what fuel is going to be. It's like it's costing us this much every time we spin the wheels a mile. Nationally, 65 cents. If we're in the West Coast, it's going to cost you more, right? 78 cents a mile on average. Now, there's some things that you and I can do to improve the efficiency of this, like in terms of like lower the cost of fuel. There's some decisions and some partnerships and some strategies we can put in place to make sure that we have some type of mitigation for the amount that we're going to pay for fuel in your fleet. But this is like the reality is what I want to get like clear and brought out here. So we're dealing with this reality of what it's going to cost for fuel. Now, we're also dealing with the reality that, you know, maintenance costs are going to be somewhere in this range of, like, I put like a 10 cent really gap here from the low to the high, so we can understand like somewhere in this range is what you're going to be paying for maintenance per mile. Okay. So you get like inside this picture, inside this number story, now we're starting to get some clarity in what we're dealing with, which is fantastic. All right. Some people may look at this and think, man, it sucks. Like these costs are so high. I don't look at it like that. I look at it, okay, this is what we're dealing with. Based on what we're dealing with, what choices do I now have? All right. So this is what we really want to get to inside of our thought process. This is what we're dealing with. What choices do I have now based on what we're dealing with? And what I can understand, like predictably, like high probability wise, this fuel cost per mile is going to go up from here. So if I'm thinking that fuel is going to go up to maybe $5 a gallon nationwide, I can sit there and think, okay, next 2 to 5 years, that's a possibility. It's like something that could be there. Well, how am I going to deal with that inside of my fleet? What are the choices I'm making now to deal with that in the next 5 years, so that you remain profitable and you remain inside of intentionality to accomplish what you said you were going to accomplish in terms of making the money and keeping the money you said you want to make with this fleet. Now, given that too, you got to think about this, right? There's a responsibility that you have to be a successful company. There's a responsibility that you have to be a successful company. Why? Because there's an impact. There's an impact to who you are, like as a leader inside of your organization. It's not just for you, it's for your employees, it's for your customers, it's for your vendors, it's for your region in which your business is located, it's for your family, right? So now, if we're taking that thought process and bringing it to, okay, well, how is it that I'm actually going to be responsible here and own my ownership of my business? It's going to be coming here to take a hard look at the reality and making some choices to be profitable. All right, now it becomes like, okay, it's on me. It's not about anything else but me now. And this is where you're going to get the power. Okay. Now, some of you that are listening on this call, you've been in the industry for a while, and you may think, man, yeah, I get it, Cheston. Like I am. That's me. This is my company. I built it. I own the whole thing. I'm responsible for it. Yeah. So great. You're fantastic to be there. And I want you to be here in this conversation with me to consider that there are ways that you can actually really, really be responsible in more ways that you have not yet been. Okay. That's going to be the access. That's the approach that I have with everything. Forget yesterday. Forget 10 minutes ago. Who am I being now? What choices do I have now that will deliver on what I say? That's going to be the source of power for anybody in life. Give it up and really see here and now. Okay, what's happening and what choices can I make now? It's going to be that choice today, right now, in this moment, that's going to breed the new person, the new being that's going to deliver the new result. If that's what I want a new result in terms of profitability. I'm forward thinking. I'm going to be making choices. I'm going to be making the choices that cause me to be that individual and have what I say that I want. Get that for me. Please get that. All right. Now I put here driver cost per mile, like 60 cents a mile. Some people are paying drivers in this country. It can be that, right? It can be a percentage of the freight rate. There are different ways to approach this. Now, for me, I'm like, well, what can I reasonably pay in order to be responsible all the way around? I want to take care of my drivers, yes, but I also want to make sure I take care of the sustainability and longevity of this company. So 49.50 cents a mile is reasonable for average of the fleet. So I'll put that there. And then if I'm looking at my driver costs, my maintenance costs, my fuel costs, this is what I'm looking at across the country in different regions. So this is a national of what it's costing me on the low end, national what it's costing me on the high end per mile. All right, if I'm looking at it, the fleet that does, OTR, like line haul, over the road line haul. Okay. So we can look at that and say, oh man, these are my costs. Now what? What do I really want to accomplish here based on this? All right. So reasonably, what can we expect? Okay. I want to go back here to check out like the opposite of this, opposite end of this. All right. So we're looking at like national rates. This is if you're trying to run flatbeds. This is what you can expect over across the country, according to that freight and analytics. According to that freight and analytics, this is what you can expect right now. Okay. Now, given this, all right, if I'm running flatbed, this region here, right, seems to be a good, like, our better choice here, all right, to pull out freight. Now, it may not be exactly 267, but on the average, coming out of the Midwest region, you're gonna get more, right, for what you're doing here. All right, that's clear. All right, and also in the flatbed for the Southeast. Okay, so you may want to consider lanes that support this strategically, right? And even the Northeast is okay, but then there's some other things we want to think about because there's a higher cost here. Now, like when I say a higher cost, when you go through here, there's a lot of mountains and hill, like all that high mountain terrain. There's also tolls in the Northeast that we got to deal with. It erodes out the profitability, right? So it may not necessarily be as attractive to go there, right? Unless you're getting like substantial rates going into that region and getting a bottom line of around what this is saying coming out of that region. That bottom line being like that 243 mark, nothing less than that, all right, than the average of that region. That's what I would say, right? So what we're getting to here right now, we're going over a lot of stuff, right? Like as far as, what the rates are for freight across the nation in spot market, right? So load boards. But what we're really talking about is the access to choice and access to negotiating power, access to clarity inside of what we're doing. Okay. So I want to keep that theme going. We take a look at these rates. Now, all right, so we can take a look at the van rates as well, right, real quick, which are going to be a lot lower right now. And it flips, right? Because we saw that for flatbed, it makes sense to go up to the Northeast. It does not make sense really here for dry van work, right? So now, again, man, choices. We can see it. It's clear. And when you start looking for contracts at this time, how can you get like maybe a better margin? Maybe you want to say, okay, I would like to get maybe this plus 20% on my rates to give me a little bit of wiggle room here. Or I would like to get this plus 25%. How can I do that? How can I bring that to the table in terms of negotiating power? What's available to me? Can I find somebody, right? Can I have these conversations with people to get those contracted so that throughout this time where, we're dealing with the market fluctuations and we're dealing with election year, we don't know how certain that market is going to go in terms of rates and for like costs, like fuel costs, maintenance costs, like the cost of materials, all those things, right? It's going to be uncertain in terms of this next year or so. Well, how can you create some certainty with what you're going to receive? All right. Excuse me. So that's along the lines of thought process, guys. So we bring this back and we're talking about, well, okay, these are the rates that we just saw over there, right? For flatbed rates, these are the same rates we just took a look at. And look, see, Midwest is, your profitable region. All right, in the Southeast, yeah, that's your next most profitable region. So the combination punch right here, if you're doing spot market, would be combination here. Right? How can we do more in this area, at least for this week, coming up on a load plan? Right? So you can have like real-time actionable decisions based on what the market is telling us. Right? You can create hiring and recruiting and hiring policies that fall in line with you being able to maintain that level of profitability. Also, we can think about things like, reefer, right? Reefer seems to be more profitable at first glance, but we already know that there are other things that are associated with reefer. There's other maintenance costs, there's more fuel costs with reefer, so it might not necessarily be more profitable than running your flatbed division, like the higher percentage of the time, looking to fill your fleet with flatbed work, right? Even inside a dry van, like it may not make sense to run a whole lot of dry van work at all. It's not profitable to do that, right? Like, how can we angle to get, the higher percentage of these two assets, right, inside the fleet? Okay. So guys, actually, this is a good conversation to be inside of. What I want to leave you with here, we're just getting started, for one. Okay. We are just getting started. I just want to be with you real quick. We're just getting started, for one. There's a lot that we can discuss in terms of being real clear in our choices moving into 2024. And it's always going to begin with the intention. What is it that you're looking to create? If we don't have that at this time of the year for your business, like what is it that you're looking to create this year? How much are you looking to grow? What does that really look like for you? And what are the action steps? Like, walk it backward, reverse that thing, man. Invert the timetable to say, okay, I'm there already now. So what's in place for me to have that right now? What is in place? So really, you want to make sure that moving forward, you create, number one, the intention, like what it is that you want. Number two, you want to create the action steps, like the partnerships and the strategies, and what are you going to implement and take on with integrity, right? What I say I do, okay, consistently, reliably this year. And for one, I know that a lot of you aren't really processing your business this way. Maybe the action might be to start looking at your business in this way. Track everything. Track all of your assets in your company and what it is that you're doing. Track your lanes in a new way so that you know exactly how your lanes are performing for you. Without question, it's not something that's a mystery for you. You just know with everything inside of your company that's going on. You know what's going on. You know what's happening down to the penny, down to the load that's being taken, and it's all being in alignment with what you say that you want this year. All right. So guys, it's been great being with you this morning. I definitely enjoyed talking with you. Have a happy New Year. I won't see you until after New Year on this call. I'm wishing you the best. Wishing you some special moments with your families. Wishing you abundance and fulfillment in 2024. I have nothing but the best intentions for you and your companies, and I'm looking forward to being here as somebody that can contribute to your success. All right, guys. Thanks. I will talk to you later. Been great being with you. See you next Wednesday.